Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my friends, whenever you're watching this video. Welcome back to another Math Time with me, Miss X. I am super excited to have you all here again. Let's begin by taking a look at our objectives. Now remember, my friends, our objectives are always broken up into three separate parts so we know exactly how we're going to do something, what it is that we need to understand, and lastly, why we're doing it or why it's important. So you may read with me or in your head as I read out loud to you. I will use rows and columns to show an array in order to relate an array to repeated addition. Now, I know that sounds very scary, my friends, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what rows and columns are. Now, with rows and columns, rows, we can think of rows the way that we see it in a movie theater. When we look at rows in a movie theater, they go from left to right, or we call this horizontal as well. And then when we think about columns, they go up and down, and you might have seen these in some fancy buildings or some very big buildings, and they have large, very tall columns, and these columns go up and down. Or we call this vertical as well. Vertical is another way of expressing columns or saying that something is going up and down. Now let's go ahead and take a look at one of our math vocabulary words, and we also saw this word in our objective, array. Array is a way of organizing a set of objects into rows, which is across or horizontal, and columns, holding it up and down or vertical.
First part of the teacher model. Take a look at my X's here. How many X's are in each group? Great, there are 3 X's in each group. How many groups do you see? Wonderful, 2 groups. How many X's altogether? 6. We are now going to arrange these X's into rows of 3. We will do this by making them go straight across instead of in individual cluster groups like this. So watch. That's a row, and we made them go from left to right in a straight line. Let's go ahead and do the same for these friends. Wonderful. What do you notice about this rectangular array? Yeah, there are 2 groups of 3, and the same number is in each row. How many X's are in each row? Yeah, there are 3 X's in each row. How many rows are there? 2. So there are 2 equal groups of 3, and we have 6 X's altogether. Did the number of X's change when I organized them from those cluster groups into this rectangular array? No. Now we are going to arrange them into columns of 2. Columns are groups that are arranged vertically or up and down. So let's go ahead and change that. And we're going to arrange it into columns. That's 1 column, and then that's 2 columns, just like that. How many columns do you see? Great, we have 2 columns. 1, 2. How many X's are in each column? 3. So there are 2 equal groups of 3. And the total amount is 6. My friends, let's pause here. Is there another way that I can arrange the bears other than 2 groups of 3? Yeah, I can do 1 group of 6. I can make 6 groups of 1, or I can make 3 groups of 2. With this arrangement, how many rows do we have? Remember, rows, we think from left to right or across like this. Yes, we have 3 rows. 1 row, 2nd row, 3rd row. How many X's are in each row? 2 X's in each row. Great job. All right, friends and families, welcome to the next part of our teacher model. Go ahead and take a look at my sketch or drawings here. How many rows do you see? And remember, rows are, you can think of it as left to right or straight across. How many rows do you see? Great, 3. 1st row, 2nd row, and 3rd row. Are my rows equal? Yes, they are, because each row has 5 X's. For right now, let's call a row a group. Let's add a line between each row. These lines between each row will help us keep our array organized. They help us see each row as a group or a unit of 5. So, again, how many rows do you see? Wonderful. 3 rows. How many equal groups are there? 3. Remember, because we're saying that for right now, a row is a group. And how many X's are in each group? 5. There are 5 X's in the 1st row. There are 5 X's in the 2nd row. There are 5 X's in the 3rd row. So, 5, 5, and 5. Let's go back. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 is 15. What repeated addition equation can we write to show the total number of X's? Wonderful, you don't even have to guess. It would be 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. And that is our total or our whole. How many addends do you see? We have 3 addends. Remember, addends is another word for part in addition. 1st addend, 2nd addend, and 3rd addend. So there are 3 5s, and 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. For this next part, let's call a column a group. Now remember, my friends, a column is when we look at it from up and down, up to down, okay? Alrighty, so for this next part, let's call a column a group. We're going to now change our array to show 5 columns of 3. Add lines between the columns now. That's our 1st column, 2nd column, 3rd column, 4th column, lastly, 5th column. This is 5 columns of 3. How do the arrays, so how does this array and the previous array look similar? And how are they different? Talk to a friend or family member first before we talk about it together as a team. Welcome back, my friends. So they look the same, but the lines show columns now instead of rows. And they both have a total of 15 X's. How many columns did we make? Yeah, we made 5 columns. And how many equal groups are there? Remember, right now we're pretending that a column is a group. So, how many equal groups are there? Wonderful, there are 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns, meaning there are 5 equal groups. How many X's are in each column? Great, there are 3. So, each column is also a group or unit of 3. So, we have 5 groups or 5 columns, and within each column we have 3 X's. We have 3 X's there, 3 X's there, 3 X's in that 3rd column, 3 X's in that 4th column, and 3 X's in that 5th column. What is our repeated addition sentence? 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3, which is 9, plus 3, which is 12, plus our final 3 is 15. So our whole or our total is 15. You can also double check that you have the same or the correct amount of addends by taking a look at your columns for this particular problem. So I'll notice that I have 5 3s, which is the same thing as the 5 columns of 3 in my array here. Now that we have finished this array looking at columns, let's go ahead and think back. What was the total for the 3 rows of 5 x's? Yeah, it was 15. What was the total for this array, which was 5 columns of 3 x's? Yeah, it was also 15. So let's go ahead and backtrack just a little bit, my friends. How are 3 rows of 5 and 5 columns of 3 related? Pause the video here and talk to your friend or family first before we talk about it together as a team. Welcome back, my friends. So, they equal the same amount. They are just a different way of grouping things to make 15. Now, I kind of erased all of our work because we're going to go back to just our original array here without any of the lines and without any repeated addition. Go ahead and take a look at our original array here. What if I add one more row? How would my repeated addition change? Okay, so let's go ahead and add one more row. And I'm going to do it in red so that you can see that we added that new row and it's a change in our original array. In the first row, we still have 5. In the second row, we still have 5. In the third row, we still have 5. I'm also going to split so that I can see it. And then in the fourth row, which was the one more row that we added, we also have 5. Our repeated addition number sentence changed from just 5 plus 5 plus 5 to now plus 5. So that's how it changed. And 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 5 is 20. So our whole would be 20, and that's how our number sentence would change. Our array changed from 3 rows of 5 to now, so we changed from 3 rows of 5 to now 4 rows of 5. There are still 5 x's in each row or each group, but now we just have one more row.
As you get ready to move into your independent practice and your exit ticket, don't forget to keep these 3 things in mind. Number 1, read the instructions carefully. This is so important. Do not guess about what you need to do. Just read the instructions. They will tell you exactly what you need to do, and it'll be a lot like our teacher models. Number 2, on page 94, instead of using pictures to represent arrays, you will use X's like I did in the teacher model. Number 3, on page 94, the directions will tell you whether to separate by columns or rows. Pay attention to that. In some problems, they will ask you to separate by columns. In other problems, they will ask you to separate by rows. And then lastly, what pages are you working on? I would like for you to work on pages 70, 83, and 94. Don't forget to click the link in the description box below if you don't have access to the worksheet. It will take you to the worksheet. Don't worry about printing it if you don't have a printer. Just write it down on another piece of paper and solve it on your own the best that you can. I'm looking forward to all of your wonderful work. Good luck, and I will see you all in the next lesson.